Oh, it's Monday night. It is Monday night. It is Monday night. I got a beer in my hands. I got a mic in my face. I got headphones on my ears. And I got the sweet, sweet tones of Rob Currie and the Currie brothers pumping through my ears. Take it away, Rob. Yes, indeed. That is, of course, the Currie brothers with their track, The Curse of the Currie Brothers, off of the record of the same name, as always. Links in the description. How was your day today, friends? Today was a good day to be outside, good day to be walking. It was not hot, it was just breezy and nice. Oh, it was a great day. I harvested a bunch of urban wild mushrooms today, specifically two generous sized puffballs and some. I actually have never heard this word said out loud, I've only ever read it, so I'm going to have a go at it. It's a two color or a bicolor bolet, 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 Bolete. So I don't know. But I harvested them, harvested the crap out of them, brought them home, chopped them up, fried them up, had them with dinner. Ooh, harvested wild mushrooms. What a delight. What a delight. By the way, if I pass out or die on camera, I probably misidentified one of them, but I know I didn't. I know how to do this. This is not new. Anyhow, hey, I've got a beer, and I've done this, I guarantee you, before. This is a good old can of Karma Citra. Been getting this a lot recently from Great Lakes. Been ordering from the brew pub via the Uber Eats app because you can get the $50 cases of premium lager, which is amazing. And by doing it that way, I don't really like Uber, but I could get it via Uber via the beer store, and then the beer store is getting money out of Great Lakes that they don't deserve. So this way, I'm trying to keep it all in the family. Anyway, I ordered some Karma Citra too. And like I say, I mean, I'll give you a really brief rundown on this. But the point of tonight, oh, sorry, kids at home. Point of tonight is not about the Karma Citra. I mean, it's a little bit about the Karma Citra. It's a great beer. Nice IPA. But I just thought I'd tell you a story or two. Both that are in my head are Great Lakes related, and maybe another one will occur to me. And I just thought it'd be nice to spend some time reminiscing, as it were, about beer events gone past. Now, Karma Citra, I mean, if you've never had this before, either you're listening from somewhere far away, or actually, there's no or. If you live in Ontario and you've not tried this beer and you're a beer person, you're failing. You're failing at life. Just putting that out there. Mmm. Karma Citra is a nice West Coast style IPA. Not as aggressively bitter as some, but it's definitely not a New England IPA. Is there crystal malt? Almost definitely. The flip to that is, are there wheat and oats? I can taste that, and I also know for a fact that there are. That's one of the things tonight. There's no surprises here. You notice I didn't spend any time sniffing and stuff. I had one of these beers with dinner. I had two of them yesterday. Probably had, oh yeah, I had one at the rugby game on Saturday. See what I'm saying? Just not that exciting when you know it inside and out. But it is exemplary of what Citra hop can do when used well. This is not just a ton of Citra poured into an IPA. There's a not insignificant amount of Citra in here, but it is executed with a very deft hand. It is, I mean, dripping with Citra hops without getting into the obscene. Like I say, it's not crazy bitter. It's gently done with the bitterness. And it shows Citra hops, which is to say citrus peel, a bit of tropical fruit, and just a touch of kind of piney dankness, like perfectly. It's like the poster child for what Citra hops should taste like. It's amazing. It's delicious. It would work well with spicy food. It would work well with a variety of cheeses. It worked really well with my roasted rainbow trout, wild harvested mushrooms, roasted spuds, and roasted corn on the cob. It's just a great beer. It's really, really good. It's a little punchy. I think it's like 6.5%. This is 6.6%, so just over 6.5%. But the story time and sort of the point of this app, or at least part of it, is to tell a story, which also I might have told at some point in the history of this here podcast. But if you specifically remember this story, I would be proud of you. You're really paying attention, probably more than me, to be honest with you. Tell you a little story about this here beer. Now, way back in the before days of craft beer in the city, when there was still only like 200 and something breweries in all of Canada, back in the good old days, a little bar on Yonge Street, some of you might have heard of. It's called Bar Volo. It used to be on Yonge Street, kids. I know that's going to blow your mind, but it was right at the corner of Yonge and Dundonald, north of Wellesley, right across from an army surplus store. They had a lovely patio. It's quite a nice spot. Get a little hectic during busy events, and they got pretty good at hosting pretty busy events. But be that as it may, that was the original location of Volo, and as I said, they did a variety of events. And in the very early days of Cask Days, an event which, of course, now takes place at the Brickworks and occupies a gigantic space, it used to just take place at Volo primarily on the patio. It would take place in October, at the same time as it takes place now. The idea being that the cooler ambient outdoor temperature would keep the casks at a better temperature for service. Anywho, in and around like 2008 or 2009, I don't think it had been much later than that, maybe 2010, but a good 15 years ago almost now, they decided to host an IPA cask beer challenge in addition to Cask Days. It was with Cask Days, but it was its own little thing. And what you would do is they'd have all these casked IPAs, and I want to say there was like, it was divisible by 8. I want to say 32. There was 32 IPAs. Might have been IPAs and pale ales, actually. Memories are a little bit foggy. But anyway, you could go in. Might have only been 16. Might not have been 32. 16 actually seems to fit my memory a bit better. You go in and you could say, I want to do it. You could do it over 2 days because the event ran all weekend, or you could be a real soldier and soldier through. Now, you weren't drinking pints. You were drinking little couple ounce sample glasses. You might end up getting through like 2 pints of beer all day, kind of thing. Not a huge undertaking. But it was blind, and this is part of the thing, is you would do it blind. And they gave you like a scorecard, and you could score them blind, and then submit it, and then they would tabulate the ratings, and then crown a winner, a blind selected winner. And everyone had a beer in that. Amsterdam probably put Bone Shaker in. Maybe it was pale ales too. Black Oak would have had their pale. Anyway, the point is there was a variety of really good beers. But I knew that year, Great Lakes had made a brand new IPA called Karma Citra. They made it on the pilot system. It was a very small batch of beer. And I'd had somebody explain to me what had happened with that beer, how it had been made, what it was made with, etc. But I hadn't had it. I'd just been described it, and that was it. And so there I was doing my Ontario IPA challenge at Volo, sipping my little 3 or 4 ounce glasses of beer, filling out my ratings very dutifully. Back then I'm still a giant geek, but I was way more open about how geeky I was. So using the BJCP guidelines to properly score these beers, as you do. And but the problem is, in anything like this, as a judge, you have a certain breadth of experience, and so you have some pinnacle moments drinking specific types of beer, and you have kind of an accepted, understood sort of middle point, and you've had some bad ones. You know what those ones are like. So you don't need to benchmark a beer every time you drink it, as long as you've drank enough beers. And at the time, and I would argue still to this day, I have that depth of experience, and so I can take a beer blind and drink it and relate it to the best I've ever had of the style, the midpoint, and you can kind of situate the beer. And so if you're thinking, well, the best one I've ever had is like 10 out of 10, and the average is like 6, where does this one land? And that's, I'm oversimplifying this process, but that's basically what you're doing. You're using your own lived experience and then thinking about the beer in front of you in that framework. So there I am, I'm scoring all these beers, and I gotta be honest with you, I'd gotten a significant way through. Again, thinking that it was probably 16, I was probably into the teens, around 12 or 13. I know 12's not a teen, give me a break. And I had a little sample cup of beer. And so far, by the way, the beers had all been, for the most part, very good. I think there was 1 or 2 that were like, oh, that's not well executed. There's a problem there. But for the most part, and so, I'm rating these beers, and if you were to kind of cook it down to a percentage out of 100, it would be, a lot of these beers were landing in sort of that 80 to 90 range, somewhere in there. They're all quite good. They're solid beers. We were making some good IPAs back then. Again, all West Coast. We weren't doing the New England stuff at this point yet. And sure, I pick up this little sample glass, and I literally sniffed it. I did take a sip, but not immediately. I just did that right now because I was thirsty when I sniffed that. I wanted it. I took a sniff, and I stopped, and I put my hand on my forehead, and I thought, oh, I'm going to have to rescore all of the beers I did. Because this beer, which I'm positive is Karma Citra, is so much better than all of these beers. It wouldn't be fair to give this one 100 knowing that that one has a 92. They aren't 8 percentage points apart. They're much further. And so I had to then accept that this glass, and I did the proper thing. I drank it and I tasted it and I, geeked out over it. But I kind of had to be like, so this one is the perfect one now. Now I have to adjust the framework in which I judge to make up for the fact that this beer is so much better than every other IPA I've had today. So much better. And it was Karma Citra. Was it the same then as it is now? Absolutely not. I guarantee you the beer has changed. They've tweaked the recipe. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have oats in it back then. Could be wrong. But I know for a fact when they first started using Citra in this way, making these IPAs, they felt like they were cheating. And by they, I mean the guys at Great Lake, the staff. Because it was just such an amazing, delicious hop. And it made the beers unfairly good. And they were just like, this is crazy. This is like secret sauce. It's totally unfair. And they had a lot of it. And they made generous use of it. That said, Mike Lackey didn't just throw it in everything. Didn't just dump it into beers that he wanted to. It was used judiciously, with real skill and understanding, but also still used fairly heavily because it's so damn good. It's such a good hop. And of course it is to this day. To this day, and I've talked about this, a lot of brewers will make an IPA and it'll be like, oh, we really want like a serious Nelson Sauvin, Southern New Zealand IPA. and they'll make it, and it's like, and there's a bit of Citra in there because you just put Citra into any hoppy beer, and it works like salt. It just broadens and amplifies all of the good parts of the beer and just makes everything it's in better. And if you make an IPA that's almost entirely Citra, it's really, really, really good. Oh, look, Ben and my wife on the same Instagram video. How about that? So that's story number one about Karma Citra IPA. So we're drinking tonight, Ben Johnson. I almost called you Ben Jones. Ben Jones is a fella I play rugby with. Ben Johnson is a fella I compete with in podcasting fame, and he's winning. Basically telling some stories. Nobody needs to hear about Karma Citra. It's amazing. It's one of the best IPAs we've probably ever made in Canada. Just putting that out there. It did make me think, though, because I was discussing the old days. Yeah, an OG IPA. The good old days of cask days. I got a good cask days story. It has nothing to do with Karma Citra. Available from the brewery right now. Also at the LCBO. I've seen this at the LCBO. You can get it there, too. But back in the good old days, so you remember in the last story I said that they used to host cask days on the patio at the old Volo at the corner of Yonge and Dundalk. Beautiful. Man, I love that event. You know, the first one post-COVID they did at the new location, which is only about 100 meters away from there, but it's on the other side of Yonge in this little sort of, I don't even know what you call that, little square tucked in behind a condo. Anyway, really nice location. But it was like the same old vibes. Just a handful of people, most of the casks sitting out on the patio. You just went, had a couple of drinks. It was really nice. When they outgrew the patio at Volo, which was a handful of years into the event, they knew they needed to move to a bigger space. And actually, the first place they hosted it wasn't the Brickworks. It was actually the Hart House Quadrangle at the University of Toronto, at Hart House, which is like a social space on the university campus. And I've got to tell you, I really liked the chill vibes on the patio, but when it got too busy, the one year they did cask days at the quad at Hart House was probably my favorite year for cask days. And not just because of the story I'm about to tell you, although that helped. But you're in the quad of a university, like beautiful old architecture. You're walled in almost all four sides of this quad, but with this open sky and this sunset, and it got dark, and there were birds flitting around. Like, it was just absolutely beautiful. Now, disclaimer: Hart House kind of screwed Volo around, made them destroy a bunch of beer at the end of the night. Like, it was messy and bad, and there's a reason why they only did it there once, and it wasn't the architecture. Just saying. I need a sip of beer. But from where I was standing as a participant, it was far and away my very favorite spot they've ever hosted it. And what really capped off the night was this. And this is going to give you a picture of the historical time frame that this story took place. The really hot news that night at Cask Days was that Ralph at Volo had managed to get Judicial from Montreal to send him a pin, so a 20-liter cask. It's the small one. Firkin is a 40-liter. It's, well, double the size, but a pin is just 20 little liters. If you're drinking pints out of a pin, you get about 40. Yeah, that's right. You get about 2 pints per liter, give or take. So it's a bit less. I think it works out to like 37 point something. The point is, not a lot of beer, especially if you're hosting a party. But they had a pin of Péché Mortel from Dieu du Sel. Did I mention that in the first part? That's what the pin was. A pin of Péché Mortel, the coffee imperial stout from Dieu du Sel in Montreal. It would, like, you would be drinking a beer at the festival, and people would be like, "Oh, you're going back to Volo to get some of the the Péché Mortel. Are you going to go? Are you going to go? Like, everyone wanted to go. It was bonkers. So there I am, Hard House Quad. Probably had a beer in my hand, standing not like right by the exit, but coincidentally I happened to be near the exit. Feel a slap on the old shoulder, and I look over, and it's Mike Lackey, brewer at Great Lakes, and Mike is famous. I don't know if he still is, but certainly in the day was famous for smoke bombing out of events. People would be like, "Anyone see where Lackey went?" And then like the next day you'd get a text and be like, "Yeah, I went home." So he was well known for this. So I'm standing by the exit. He slaps me on the shoulder. He goes, "Schreier, let's go." And I'm like, "Yeah? Where are we going?" And he's like, "Volo." And I went, "Yep." I don't even think I finished my beer. I think I just set down the glass and we walked out of the quad. And if you know where Hard House is, it's not that far a walk to Volo. It's like not even 10 minutes. So him and I, both pretty drunk admittedly, weave our way through the campus and get over to Volo. And we walk in, and like it wasn't empty, but it was a quiet night because anybody who knew anything about Volo wasn't at the bar. They were at cask days at Hard House. So it was like pretty chill. And the funny thing was, everyone at Volo who was on staff was working that day. Most of them were at cask days. But I reckon it was like the newest staff members were left to mind the bar while everyone else was at cast days having a ball. It was like, lowest seniority people got stuck at the bar, no casks, no cool people, just waiting for the cool people to show up. Well, the good news was I was with one of the cool people. I was with Mike. So we walk in, and I immediately look at the board like, oh, what am I going to have to drink? And Mike goes, oh, no, we're going to have some Péché Mortel. And I was like, oh, I think we got to wait. They're not going to tap it until Ralph's back. And he goes, no, it's fine. And he walks around the bar, and he says to one of the bartenders, who knows exactly who he is, by the way, says, where's the cask of Péché Mortel? And the guy's like, well, it's this one right here. And he points, there's a cask stillaged on the bar. Stillage means it's on a stand. It's been sitting in the proper position. But it hadn't been broached, which is to say it didn't have a tap in it yet. It was still sealed. So Mike goes, Ralph sent me to tap the cask so it would be ready when everybody gets here. And the person was like, really? And he's like, yeah, he didn't want to risk it, making a mess or anything. And he just asked me to come now and tap it. And so I'm going to tap it. And like before the person could say anything, he picked up, there was a mallet and a cask tap, and boom, he hammered it home, drove the tap in, threw a spile in the top, opened it up. Yep, it's flowing. Grabbed a pint glass, filled a pint glass, handed it to me, filled a pint glass, closed the tap, took it to himself, said, cool, we'll make sure everything's okay, don't worry. And then he took me over to a table and we sat down and we each drank a full pint of the Péché Mortel on cask at Volo. Nobody was there. The place was not empty, but nobody who knew anything about what we were drinking was there. And we were more than halfway through and people started trickling in. And when Ralph came in, Mike was like, don't worry, I already tapped the cask for you. And he kind of waved, and if I recall, Ralph kind of rolled his eyes and went about his business. Everybody else that night, by the way, was drinking the cask out of the sort of 4 or 5 ounce sample glasses. Mike and I had 20 ounces each. It was fantastic. That said, I think after about the 5th sip, I couldn't really taste much anymore anyway, because A, I was already pretty drunk, and B, that's a pretty punchy beer. But it was amazing. That was a ton of fun. The only time I've ever smoke bombed an event with Mike Lackey, and it worked out really, really well. But like I say, way back in the day, remember when access to Péché Mortel was like a really big deal? People were doing like private orders and such. Yeah. Now you just go once a year to Godspeed, and they've got it on tap. And the guys from from Judas Sale come down to hang out. It's amazing. Anyhow, I think that's about it. Yeah, we can go in 25 minutes. 2 stories. Story time with Chris Schreier. Some old Great Lakes stories from back in the day. That time that Karma Citra, which by the way is the beer I am drinking right now, messed up me judging an event. And the time me and Mike Lackey, and mostly Mike Lackey, I was just there for the ride, completely fraudulently tapped a cask of Pesce Immortale and helped ourselves. Also, by the way, 99% sure I did not pay for that glass of beer. I don't know who did, if anyone did. I almost certainly did not. But that's where we were at. Anyhow, fun times at the Great Lakes. Don't we all love Great Lakes? Still haven't made it to the brew pub, but I am on holiday starting next week. I am going to go to both Left Field in Liberty Village and Great Lakes in what do we call Portlands? In the Portlands. I'm going to bike it. It might wait until the week after Labor Day. Because next week, the point is I'm spending time with my kids before they have to go back to terrible school. So we're going to the zoo. We're going to the aquarium. We're going to the ROM. We're going to the X. We're going to watch the air show. Can you see how my week's filling up? But the week after, I probably will do that bike trip. Hit up Left Field, hit up Great Lakes, 2 brew pubs recently opened, and by recently I mean within the last year, that I really want to check out. So I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll do some little on the runs. Jump on the old Instagram machine real quick. If you are listening to this podcast and you don't follow me on Instagram, I mean, you can follow me, Chris Schreier, not hard to find, but Toronto Beer Podcast. I do live videos. That's when I'm talking about Eric and Ben and all that. That's what they were watching. You can follow that along there. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I think I will. I will definitely do little live videos at both locations. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to look like a total douchebag, but I'm doing it for you, my dear listener friends. I'm doing it for you. I'll try and announce that I'm going to do it too. Like the night before, I'll put up a post that says, hey, follow along tomorrow. Won't that be fun? Also, any other suggestions for stops between Left Field and Liberty Village, Great Lakes in the Portlands, and then my house, which is in the east end of the beach? Anywhere I need to stop that I haven't been before, hit me up. I'll do it. That'll be a fun day. And I will try not to get in a bike accident. Anyhow, that's us for tonight. Like I said, we are drinking Karma Citra IPA from Great Lakes Brewery. Such a great beer. Literally world class. I stand behind that. One of the best IPAs we've probably made in the province and continue to make. It is real good. If you like IPAs, you will like this. If you don't like IPAs, you probably won't, because it's so IPA-y. It makes IPAs blush for how un-IPA-y they are. So that's this beer. My thanks to Mike Lackey for smoke bombing me out of an event that I was having a ton of fun at to go to a more fun event. Also, my thanks to Ralph and Tom and Julian at Volo for more good memories than I can remember, because, intoxicants. Those guys, they sure put on a good show. So that's a big old cheers and thanks to the Moranas and Mike Lackey. And with that, I will leave you with the Currie brothers. As always, link in the description. Buy this record. It's so damn good. I will talk to you next week.